I'm going to talk about a topic that is equally applicable to metaphysics as it is to field theory. And everybody's seen the yin-yang symbol, right? Yeah, the white semicircle and the inverse yin and yang symbol, right? Yeah, principle of dualism, but ultimately holism, right? And I'm the first person to talk about this. And by the way, I got a $10,000 offer today to buy the rights to the 4th edition of my book on magnetism. And I'm like, but that's off topic. I'm the person to discover that the fundamental conjugate nature of the universe, of course, is dielectricity and magnetism, respectively the toroidal and the hyperboloidal geometry. They're literally the yin and yang principles of the universe. But getting to the topic that this video is about is dualism. That dualism is a fundamental defect in thinking. Both the ancient Greek Platonists, Pythagoreans, Neoplatonists, and Indians were non-dualists. Fundamentally, the absolute has of itself one attribute, just as light is indistinguishable from its extrinsic attribute, that of illumination, and just as magnetism is the dielectric field. In other words, the loss of that energy or that inertia is the manifestation, literally the creation of space, the creation of a centrifugal force vector. But dualism, whether it be Indian, like the founder of non-dualism, but he wasn't the founder, he just rehashed Upanishadic and Shramanic thought on non-dualism. That would be Shri Sankaracharya, his primary writings, the Upadisahasraya, the Vivachudamuni. Non-dualism, Advaita Vedanta, right? Specifically, Indian non-dualism. Nothing is known except throughout the modality of the knower. The Greek and Egyptian non-dualism is absolutely identical. However, they use a different lexicon to refer one and the same thing. Specifically, the agathon or the absolute, and the Greeks fundamentally tried to understand the extrinsic attribute of the absolute, and this is where we get the words tolma, ananke, and euristos dias. And this is, of course, too, why the golden ratio or the Fibonacci sequence starts out with the first two numbers being 1 and 1, principle and attribute. 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, etc., etc., etc. Non-dualism is an error of thought. It is an error of the ability to synthesize the fact that even the most simplex fundamental of things, i.e. the absolute, or the Greeks would call it the agathon, or as the Indians called it Brahman, is non-dual. It has of itself the most very simplex of things, one attribute at the very minimum. To do good is, of course, a outpouring of the good itself, the good with the capital G. The good does good. The absolute in what it is in principle is also what it is in attribute. The same thing with light and illumination is indistinguishable. The euristos dias, or the extrinsic attribute of the absolute, is necessitated. That discovery is found in Plato's Republic 509d to 511. That's the reason why the discovery of the secret buried within, and it doesn't belong to Plato. A lot of people actually, well, those are the works of Plato. It's like, no, a lot of the stuff attributed to Plato, especially the really important parts of the Republic and the Timaeus and Parmenides, predates Plato big time. That's Pythagorean. That's all Pythagorean stuff. That equation, by the way, is tattooed right here. That discovery on the interior part of my right wrist. But non-dualism is the only true answer. I mean, the greatest minds that have ever lived, both Egyptian, Indian, and Greek, have said that dualism does not exist. It is a misapprehension of principle and attribute. I could go and diverge on this deeply down the rabbit hole pretty far. However, I don't know how far people would want me to go regarding non-dualism. But suffice to say that the misapprehension, lack of vision, lack of intellect, lack of insight into the nature of fundamental reality, natura naturans, or the absolute, is a misunderstanding of principle and attribute. An ignorant child would think that ice, water, and steam are three different things because, one's hard and the other one's liquid and wet and the other one is a steam and it's hot. They're all different temperature and pressure modalities of water, right? Current idiot scientists, intellectually unevolved human beings that they pathetically are, and of course they're atomists, They have been working on a grand unified theory for many decades, but it's already unified. The unification, the lack of the understanding thereof, or lack of insight into that, is, of course, the misapprehension of these atomistic minds to see that these things are already unified, but they can't actually make the connection between them. Specifically, like electricity is not a thing itself. Electricity is a hybrid of dielectricity and magnetism. So-called gravity, the phenomena of gravity is dielectric acceleration. Yeah? This is the geometry of counterspace, the geometry of increasing inertia and acceleration, right? Make a crude analogy, magnetism would be releasing calories in my arm to throw a ball up in the air, and of course dielectricity is the descent and the recovery. Mutual mass acceleration between the Earth and that baseball is a return to inertia. All force vectors terminate, and that's why all force vectors are curvilinear. All force vectors must terminate at the point of origin. They necessitatively must. There are no straight lines in the universe. But this is not dualism. And since magnetism is the dielectric field, then we only have one thing. We have the ether, we have counterspace, or you can say the dielectric, electrostatic. Electrostatic, however, is a manifestation, be incorrect. The loss of that energy or inertia we actually define as magnetism. We inappropriately ascribe something as an autonomous phenomena, which is not, to gravity. Well, that's gravity, you know. No, it's dielectric acceleration. It's point non-specific mutual mass acceleration, which is absolutely no different than magnetic attraction, so-called. But there's no such thing as magnetic attraction because magnetism is denotatively force in motion. It's a divergent centrifugal force vector. So the distinction, of course, is one is point source and the other was not point source. So we've eliminated out electricity, we've eliminated out gravity, and we've eliminated out magnetism, which is the dielectric field. So there you actually have the grand unified theory. And this is, of course, the implication of which is that one necessitatively must have insight, wisdom, and the clarity of thought to not only think deeply, but to think clearly. And people can't do that because no one's taught how to think anymore. So non-dualism, or the ancient Indian Advaita Vedanta, is ultimate reality, not dualism. There is no duality. Dualism is it's an expression of ignorance. It's a type of false conviction and an obtuse belief system that is based upon misapprehension of what is observed or known, or both observed and known, meaning lack thereof known, meaning unknown. So anyway, also too, I could actually get into the metaphysics of mind and consciousness. We don't actually have that distinction in English, but the ancient Indians and Greeks were very cool, and being specific, the word for empirical consciousness in ancient Pali is vijnana, which literally means ignorance, or avidya. But avidya and vidya are one and the same thing. When we say avidya, we're actually talking about illumination. When we talk about vidya, we're talking about the light itself. Anyway, I don't know how deeply people want me to go down the hole on non-duality, but I can go a lot deeper. Just let me know. Thank you so much. I hope you like these videos. I'm broke as hell, so if you ever drop a coin in a link below vis-a-vis PayPal or anything else, that would be greatly appreciated. Or you can tell me to jump off a cliff. Anything that makes you happy, anything that tickles your pickle, you know, that's do you, right? Do what you do best. that was inappropriate there. I meant do you. That's what I meant to say. That doesn't sound right either. When someone says to do you, that actually sounds inappropriate. I think you know what I mean. Anyway, back to working on my article. I don't have any time in the day to breathe, you know? Whatever happened to the time, and I never had this time, where you could just like walk and smell the flowers, and, you know, I just was so busy all the time. I haven't even eaten yet today, which is a good thing, I guess, because I'm too fat and I need to eat less anyway, but I'm actually starving right now. I haven't eaten for 24 hours, actually. And someone's going to tell me how great that is because you're fat. You need to be doing intermittent fasting, so that's good for you. Like, okay, Okay. What are you, my ex-girlfriend that used to always pick on me about everything? Oh, baby, you too fat. Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's the ex-girlfriend I had. That was her favorite thing. Say, oh, baby, you be good. You lose some weight. You too fat. Truth, by the way. That's exactly the way she talked and what she said. What a horrible person she was. So glad I got rid of her. Whew. That was stuff you didn't need to hear, but I'm going to edit it out of this video, so you're not going to see it. Yeah, right. Oh my god.